Viewer discretion is advised.
Our last on this list is Washington Wizards owner Ted Leonsis, who came from a modest background to find fortune in America Online and got out of that thing at just the right freaking time. Leonsis is known as a hands-on type of owner, and I can't think of any situation where that doesn't ever go bad. You can't argue about his passion for his team though, as he once scuffled with a fan who criticized him. Luckily for him, Dan Snyder is a much bigger buffoon. Ah, the Wiz and the Cavs. I wouldn't let my kids near them. They might choke. Well, they of sucking copious amounts. Come sit here next to me, Washington Wizards fans. You should rightfully be embarrassed that an ex-porn star, who is dumber than all the shit TechRax does to iPhones, reps your gear, and claims to be a fan. Let's see, you drafted Kwame Brown with the #1 overall pick. You let a past his prime MJ play for you and taint his legacy for 2 seasons. And of course, your best player at the time thought it was a great idea to bring a loaded gun into the locker room to mess with his teammate. Man, I miss Gilbert Arenas. Hibachi! Dear Washington Wizards, do you hear that? It's the beeping sound of your team accidentally backing into the playoffs when the lottery was probably a better option. Also, thank you for trading me to the Kings for Mitch Richmond. Signed, Chris Webber. The 1971 Milwaukee Bucks were really good as big man Lou Alcindor led them to a championship, not before issuing an epic beatdown on the team they would eventually play in the finals. Alcindor, the part-time airline pilot, put up 30 points, grabbed 17 boards, and dialed up 5 dimes.
I'm sorry, son, but you must have me confused with someone else. My name is Roger Murdoch.
The Bucks would sweep Baltimore in the NBA Finals later that year, as the Bullets didn't match up well with them. And finally, the most cringe mascot in all of the league. So back in the late 80s, Gonzo, Elmo, and the Cookie Monster used to party hard at strip clubs, snorting sugar cookies and tickling booty. Though nobody knows who the true father is, we do know that if we did a DNA test on Gee Whiz, one, if not all 3 of them would be appearing on Maury.
You are not the father.
Just what is this thing? I see he has a wizard hat, but where is his robe? Apparently Gee Whiz has a big booty girlfriend named Gina Whiz. I mean Gina, really her name is Gina Whiz. I could only imagine what type of baby the 2 of these would produce. Located in Chinatown, the Capital One Arena finally saw a banner raised there this year, the closest any Washington team will get to a championship for a long, long time. According to Wikipedia, the neighborhood has been completely gentrified since the arena opened, but last time I was there, I had no trouble finding a good Chinese place to eat at. The team that liked to bring guns into the locker room isn't short on tabloid fodder, but is lacking on overt cheating. Jody Meeks was suspended in 2018 for ipamorelin and GRHP2, basically growth hormones. The journeyman and his 6.3 points per game would miss the playoffs. Unfortunately, the Wizards will not be receiving a bailout for the John Wall contract. The only thing more ridiculous than paying him all that money is JaVale McGee's antics when he was on your team. They're basically holding Bradley Beal hostage, needlessly hoarding him like toilet paper. Oh, that look on his face is just sad. Ah yes, an arena as defunct as its naming partner. The buried half-pipe served the Bullets, the Capitals, and failure for 20 plus years. The building was home to superfan Robin Ficker, a local lawyer who would heckle the ever-living crap out of opponents and refs with the bullhorn and insults.
Did anybody take a swing at you?
Yeah. Coach Frank Layden did.
It was imploded in 2002 and replaced with a bougie shopping mall that has since been demolished itself.
Gee Whiz, Washington. He's got a pot belly and a nose that looks like a flaccid penis, so it's not my style, no offense. But to be fair, that pretty much sums up our political leaders in Washington. Rating, 3 out of Washington Wizards, Elvin Hayes. Hayes is another great player that gets lost to time. He was overshadowed by other top big men like Wilt Russell and Kareem throughout his career, but he's going to get his due here. His best statistical years came early in his career with the Rockets, but with Washington, he was still a consistent 2012 guy with good defense. He helped Washington win its only title in franchise history in 1978 1978 and another finals appearance the next year. He had a reputation as being a bit selfish and coming up small in big moments, but considering the other options the Washington franchise has to choose from, I feel he has the best combination of longevity, stats, and accolades. Hey, at least he never pulled a gun on a teammate or pooped in their shoe like another Washington star player did years later. Washington Wizards, Kwame Brown. One of the most famous draft busts, and another that you can pin on Michael Jordan's incredibly awful talent evaluation skills. Brown was the first high schooler ever taken first overall, and obviously failed to live up to that standard, which is a shame, because if he had been drafted in the late first round or second round, his career would be seen as respectable. He lasted 12 years in the league, but Washington gave up on him after just 4. He provided almost nothing offensively, but was a solid defender, but you don't draft a guy first overall to be a solid defender and nothing else. Congrats to him on his second career as a social media celebrity now, though. And finally, the Washington Wizards, who really haven't been relevant as a franchise since the 70s, which also happens to be the time period that makes this list, as they got swept in the 1975 NBA Finals by the Warriors after winning 60 games in the regular season. I really don't have any more to say other than the Bullets were Rick Barry's bitch all series. It's always nice to see another Barry succeed, even if that Barry is a famous douche. Washington Wizards, Bradley Beal. Just a couple seasons ago, Beal was averaging 30 plus points, but his game has never seemed to translate as much to winning as you would think. But that hasn't stopped his salary from rising, as he's on the hook for over $43 million this year, and it just gets worse and worse for Washington in the upcoming years. He's only getting older, and his play has declined the last couple years. His contract is becoming an albatross. If Washington is serious about being contenders again, they need to find a way to get off of Beal's contract. And finally, the Washington Wizards / Bullets, Elvin Hayes, 1978. There really weren't a lot of great choices here, so I went with Elvin Hayes' 1978 title run, where he averaged 22 points a game, 13 rebounds a game, 2 assists, steal and a half, and 2.5 blocks a game on 49% shooting, while leading the league in several advanced stat categories. The Big E's best performance, in my opinion, came in Game 4 of the Eastern Conference Finals, where he put up 35 points, 19 rebounds, and 3 blocks on 63% shooting. Despite this, Hayes would not win Finals MVP. That would go to teammate Wes Unseld, who averaged 9 points a game in the finals, while Hayes averaged 21 points and 12 rebounds. All the Steph Curry fans bitch and complain about him getting robbed of the 2015 Finals MVP. What about all my Elvin Hayes fans out there? Come on, we need to start a petition right now that goes back in time and hands the 1978 Finals MVP to Elvin Hayes. Let's do what's right. Come on, Adam Silver. And finally, Washington Wizards, Kevin Duckworth. Duckworth's best seasons came with the Blazers, again, another opponent of MJ's. Despite his decent raw stats, let's just say that the advanced stats do not paint a good picture of him. But you don't need advanced stats to tell that his 2 years in Washington weren't great. He averages 6.8 points per game and 5 rebounds a game on 43% shooting, providing no assists or defense and a lot of fouls. At least the Bullets changed their name to the Wizards to end gun violence in this country forever. Thank you so much, Washington. And finally, the Washington Wizards. How do you trigger a fan base whose team hasn't made a conference final since the 1970s? Do Wizards fans even exist? John Wall is the last legit good player this team has had, and that was 6 years ago. Gilbert Arenas will live on forever in NBA lore, even though he was only good for 3 years and is a legitimate psychopath. The Wizards are so irrelevant that people don't even want to acknowledge that Michael Jordan played for them. Much like Yamcha from Dragon Ball Z, the Wizards used to be important, but as time progressed, they've just become more and more irrelevant.